We are saddened to announce the death of our beloved Rich Bradley Paul, also known as Eddie or Zell, of Montvoy Blanchard Derisseau, who passed away at the Victoria Hospital on Saturday, January 14, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. He was 24 years old. He was the son of the late Brenda Paul of Blanchard. He was also predeceased by his siblings Shara Paul and Chad Paul. Left to mourn are his father, Maurice Paulion of Montvan, his grandmothers, Madeleine Paulion, also known as Dita of Montvan, Teresa Paul, also known as Mafagi of Titu Blanchard, his sisters, Tamisha Paulion, also known as Mauricia of Blanchard, Cobina Paul, also known as Vina, residing in Tirochet, Shatoya St. Catherine, residing in Auger, Yasmin Emmanuel, residing in Castries, adopted sister, Michaelina Ferdinand of Angers, his brothers, Venus Paul, residing at Fiefort, Richard Paulion of Blanchard, his aunts, Claudia Paulion and her family, Magdalena Paulion and her family, Edmonita Paul and her family, all of Blanchard, Colette Paul and her family of Auger. His uncles, Godfrey McFarlane of Derisseau and his family, Steve McFarlane in the U.S. and his family, Julian Paulion, also known as Surprise of Blanchard, Raphael Paulion, also known as Agout of Blanchard, Clement Paulion of Gara and his family, Matthew Paulion, also known as Wawool of Castries and his family, George Paulion, residing in Martinique and his family, Damien Paulion, residing in Castries and the family, Aloysius Paul of Blanchard and family, Pontien Paul of Blanchard and his family, Brian Paul and his family, Alexander Paul and his family of Blanchard, Francis Paul, residing in Castries and his family, his grandaunts, Veronica Jean-Charles, also known as Angela and her family of Blanchard, Audrica Neptune of Derisseau and her family, his granduncles, Antoine Thomas, also known as Ernest, and his family of Derisseau, Michael Monchery, also known as Macrerans and his family of Blanchard, his nephews, Kevon Paul, Levon Paul, Davy Peters, who was also his favorite, Malik Justin and Caden Paul, nieces, Naomi Paul and Curtine Paul, godparents, Kennison Walter of Derisseau, Don, residing in Grace, favorite cousins, Sherney Manuel, Shanice Paulion of Montvan, close cousins, Christine Paulion, Jason Joseph, Sherwin Paul, Dinesh Paul, Leandra Paulion, Adrian Paulion, Shomani, CJ and Kimmy, his friends, Mohan Jomari, Shomani Montea, Cornel David of Blanchard, Quaylan Wilfred, also known as Starboy of Opicon, Joanne Johnny of Grace, Al Edward, residing in Dennery, Sebastian Frederick, also known as JR of Blanchard, his bus driver, and Cetus Winter, also known as Dan. Other families: the Paulion families of Blanchard, the McFarlane families of Derisseau and Blanchard, the Paul families of Blanchard, the Thomas families of Blanchard. Many other relatives and friends, too numerous to mention, who will miss him dearly. The funeral service in celebration of the life of Rich Bradley Paul, also known as Eddie or Zell, will be held at the Redeemed Christian Fellowship Church in Blanchard, Derisseau, on Saturday, February 18, 2023 at 2 p.m. The body will be laid to rest by his loved ones at the Deriso Cemetery. His body now lies at Rambali Funeral Parlor, Latuni, V4.